Pistons fans, let's talk. Let's talk about, I want to say, an onslaught. What recently occurred with the releasing of Monty Williams as well as Troy Weaver. It it's so many layers that could be addressed or where we can, I don't know, dissect per se. Where we're speaking from ethnicity, we can speak from, you know, religion, this downright this difference, right? All right, I if you want to go from a larger scale outside of sports, right? Now you're dealing with, race, religion, creeds, traditions. You're dealing with something that is you could say controversial. It is more so based upon opinions, right? At the end of the day, it comes down good versus evil. Now, when it's dealing with sports, it's not good versus evil. It's it's like the lesser of the evil type deal. So what do I mean by that? In sports, it comes well. It's stated that the better team wins. So the team that is most cohesive, they come together as a camaraderie, and they complement each other so much so that they become a team. So much so that they become flawless as a team. So much of a united front that it is superior, or it overthrows the opponent who is not as equipped as a united front. So if we were to talk about Troy Weaver, Monty Williams, and even go to the likes of Tom Gores, the failure with Detroit is that no one has been able to, of the let's say the combination of the three, Tom Gores, Troy Weaver, down to Monty Williams, was able to bring forth a united front. Why? Because they all come from three different cloths. They come from three different cloths. So there is impossible for it's impossible within 1 year. It's impossible for them to come together because well, it's impossible based upon how the owner is structured. The owner is pretty much like he's he's like a throw it on the wall, see if it stick type of guy. Now, don't get me wrong. I imagine there's some things that is a part of this equation that is calculated. I just don't see. Well, even with the, you know what? Let's rephrase that. It's not, Monty Williams was not a throw on the wall, see if it stick. It has a outside of sports effect. Yet when it comes inside the force, okay, this is interesting because if we were to keep it strictly sports, there's no room for religion because it's completely competitive. The purpose of religion is supposed to be bring forth a united stability or to be unionized. Even though it may be a gathering of diversity, nonetheless, that diversity still has to conform to one united front. It would be called buying in. You put all your differences aside, we could say egos, but nonetheless, it's the ego that brings you into the sport. So it's like you have to evolve, right? From the ownership down to the selection of who you gonna have running the ship, as well as the players that are gonna be a part of the ship. Is you're gonna have to evolve. You're gonna have to change. You're gonna have to each layer from the ownership down to general manager, down or managerial, down to how can you say it, employment or employees, not employment, employees. They're gonna have to let go of what got them there. Each one of them is bringing a level of ego, or let's say independence, right? To come together is huge. Is this is why the better team wins, because the team that has the less ego wins. The team that has the less ego wins. Unless you're just dealing with a team that is inferior to a team that the opposing team. And let's say, for example, when it came to like, we talking about dynasty. Let's talk about dynasties for a second. If we were to talk about, you throw the Bulls in there, the Warriors, the Boston Celtics, the Lakers, and I'm going to even say the Pistons. Now, here's the reason why the Pistons will not be considered as a dynasty and never was allowed to be a dynasty because they broke the mold. Every other team was actually, every other dynasty that is, their opponent was terrified of them based upon how the NBA structured them. Right? The NBA structured them. How the NBA assembled them. The Boston Celtics, the Lakers. Look what went into it. Look how the Boston Celtics was able to bring, if you were dealing with Red Auerbach, how they was able to assemble, I don't want to say their long-term tenure as champions, whether you're talking about the Bill Russell era or the Larry Bird era. Look how they was assembled. Larry Bird, Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale. You get these top, Dennis Johnson, you get these top players. But then the NBA has to assist that by allowing them to get the likes of a Larry Bird or Kevin McHale or whatever the case may be. You say the same thing with the Lakers. You talking about if they have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, you draft Magic Johnson, and then you come back again, you draft James Worthy. Now, you didn't draft Kareem, you traded for him. You look how the NBA is involved. All right, now, when you look at the likes of the Pistons, there's no NBA involvement. There's no NBA involvement. That's strictly Detroit. Yet Detroit is finna beat, or is beating, what the NBA has assembled. All right? Now, Michael Jordan is not a threat at this point. When you're dealing with Detroit becoming a dynasty, Michael Jordan is not a threat. However, he is the ally to the NBA to take down Detroit. Well, psychologically, Michael Jordan couldn't do it. So he needed help from the NBA. This is where, the constant reports of him going to going to the commissioner, making his plight about this. And he's basically saying like, oh, well, if you want me to be the face of this league, if you want to continue to make money off of me, I need you to change this. So the NBA got behind and became an ally to Michael Jordan. At the same time, is at the cusp of when Detroit is actually beating the likes of the Lakers and the Celtics, who the NBA helped to assemble. Now, when it comes to Detroit Pistons, the NBA has nothing to do with it. Has nothing to do with it. The likes of Isaiah, Joe Dumars, how they was able to get Bill Laimbeer, etc. It's totally against how the NBA how NBA helps teams. Now, if you were to fast forward to say for the likes of the Golden State, they could say they were a drafted team, right? And they won a title or close to winning a title. I believe they won a title without Kevin Durant. Nonetheless, they wasn't considered a dynasty until they got Kevin Durant NBA involvement. Right? This is the likes of Steve Kerr, maybe Stephen Curry, etc. Players went to go recruit Kevin Durant. Yet, when the Lakers is finna get Chris Paul from New Orleans, they nixed that deal. Why didn't they nix the deal with Kevin Durant? Well, they said the NBA had since the New Orleans was up for being sold, the NBA had the rights to. I mean, had the managerial rights, of this and this. So why wouldn't the NBA allow it? Well, there is no NBA involvement with that current Lakers team. If you have talking about Kobe Bryant, that Kobe Bryant is not somebody you can market. How can I say it? Well, I know we're going way, 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 but the point we're going back. Let's reel it back in. When we're speaking about when it comes to the Pistons and Monty Williams, the Monty Williams, Troy Weaver, and Tom Gores, it was impossible for them to work together. They're from three different areas. I mean, forgive me. They're from three different directions. Tom Gores is a guy who throws on the wall to see if it sticks. At the same time, he's a guy that is that throwing on the wall to see if it sticks is calculated. I look at Troy Weaver as a guy that he's a throw on the wall to see if it sticks too as well. Nonetheless, it's calculated. Now, when it comes to Monty Williams is not a guy that throws on the wall to see if it sticks. He is what you call how we best describe it. He is an individual that is structured. He's structured. We can say that goes to a religious background. Well, if you have a bunch of 19-year-olds coming in, or 19 and older is coming in, it's least likely that they're going to be structured prior to that, unless they come from a background that is structured. But if you look at the players they drafted, that's probably not the case. That goes back to the NBA involvement type deal. The NBA involvement deals with a structure type deal until the likes of, if you were to look at Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, let's say Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, and Magic Johnson, they all come from a structured background. Kobe Bryant was hinting at this. He was like, well, if you have a mother and a father as an athlete, you already have the advantage over the opposing opponent. And if you are structured, if the player comes in without the mother and the father, it comes with a broken, the coach is going to have to wear a couple more hats. That's going to take time. Because there's a distrust with the players because there's a brokenness of the player. So Monty Williams is coming from that perspective. Well, I'm wearing a different hat. It's called structure. This is why he put in Killian Hayes over Ivy. Now, it's clear to say Ivy's probably to say he's the better talent. However, Ivy's not structured. Ivy is erratic. He throws. He's like a Kobe Bryant-esque or Allen Iverson-esque. Allen Iverson-esque. They're you can say athletically gifted, yet they're broken. Now, Kobe is partial to the exception to the rule, which made him the player that he turned out to be. Where he's so structured by having a two-parent home that it allowed him to have like this drive to be better. And what I mean by better, continue to add. That's the difference between Allen Iverson and Kobe Bryant. Now, Allen Iverson is going to keep attacking you because of the brokenness. Kobe Bryant is going to continue to add, like it's like a mental thing. It's like the more that I know, the more I'll beat you. Allen Iverson is more so the more that I attack you, the more I'm going to wear you down. So Jaden Ivey is like, I put him in the mind of a combination of between Iverson and Kobe Bryant. Yet, when you look at Killian Hayes, though, Killian Hayes is a little bit more structured. I think he's a little bit more erratic, but he's a little bit more structured than Jaden Ivey is. So when the fans were to say, okay, let's go, Monty Williams should be fired because of the Ivy thing. All right, when Ivy got his chance to showcase himself, what did he do that was head above shoulders in comparison to himself that solidified that argument that he deserved that spot? Even now, since the, all right, Kelly Hayes was released. Now it is a clear pathway for Ivy to showcase that he's not just deserving of this position, that he's well deserving of this position. Now, fast forward some time, he's most likely to be he's in trade rumors. He's most likely to be traded of the core, or the rebuilding core. Rumor talks, Ivy. Could they say Ivy and Cunningham can't work together? But you guys wasn't saying that when Monty Williams was putting in Killian Hayes with the likes of Cunningham. See, Monty Williams has come from a structured position or perspective. Forgive me, a structured perspective. Position himself in that structure. Going back to the ego thing, it's a competitive thing. So it's not based upon structure, per se. It's based upon wins and losses by any means. So it's basically kill to be killed. So the days of a structure or, league is done. It's almost like the least structural team that can bully the opposing team, they will win. For the likes of Denver, for the likes of Dallas, that's why you get these super teams. These super teams is not based off cohesion. They're based off bullying. So it's off intimidation. So it's the passing of the torch. Okay, when you talk about the Magic Johnson Lakers, Larry Bird Lakers, those dynasties, that passed it on to how the Pistons found a new recipe how to defeat those two teams by taking what they did and adding a little difference to it. Why? Because okay, if you're the Bad Boys or you're the Detroit Pistons, you're not assembled by the NBA. You don't have a player that the NBA is behind, per se. That's what we say. When we're saying about assembled, we're saying that you have to have a player that the NBA is going to endorse. That's their cash cow. Well, Michael Jordan is that. But the Pistons are standing in the way of Michael Jordan. Larry Bird, Magic Johnson is done. They milked that cow. The next in line is the one who defeated them both. However, they don't have that guy that the NBA can get behind. They can get behind Isaiah because Isaiah comes from a perspective that I'm not 6'9", I'm not white, I'm not a point guard at 6'9", that black, and I'm not there. I'm the smallest guy here. But my heart is as tall as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar hook shot. I'm coming after you. So Isaiah's like Iverson in that regard. I got skill, which he does have. He has skill. Yet I have a heart that would triumph over the fact that you're 6'9", or even to the likes of Michael Jordan, that you have like this 50-inch vertical, whatever, I don't know. This is why the Pistons couldn't be a dynasty. Did not the Pistons beat the Lakers in the so-called Phantom Foul series? Yeah, they beat the Lakers. That was their three-peat right there. No, no one was going to beat the Pistons at that point. Michael Jordan was not going to beat the Pistons. If the Pistons would have, if they won that, let's say, what was that year? 88? If they won in 88, you saw how close they was in 87. If they won in 88, the Lakers, of course, the Lakers is done. Because 89, they swept the Lakers. Then 90, they come back and they beat Portland. Who was going to beat the Pistons? If the NBA doesn't step in, who is going to beat the Pistons? If the NBA doesn't step in and help Michael Jordan, who was going to beat the Pistons? Remember, they changed the rules. The rules that was there before Michael Jordan entered to the league. They changed those rules. Who? So the reason why the Pistons, if they were to say the Pistons are not a dynasty, they couldn't be a dynasty. Now, I know we went off the rails with about Monty Williams and the whole thing, but it's all tied together. The only way the Pistons are going to win, because the Detroit, as well, I'm about to contradict myself, I guess. Tom Gores plays within the rules of the NBA, which is, I need you to be the doormat. Whatever it takes. I need you to be the doormat. Now, that's something that Bill Davis wasn't allow himself to do. So it put Bill Davis is on the outs of the likes of the NBA. He was on the outs. Everything Bill Davidson did was outside of the NBA constructural, I guess you could say, impact. I don't know. It's almost like it's illegal gambling, yet it is beneficial to the house. So Bill Davis, who went outside of that, Tom Gores was working with under it. Working up under it, working up within it. There is absolutely no way you assign a person to that large of a contract and fire him after 1 year. Off of what terms? You can't say you have the losingest record. You can't go off of that because you was pretty bad before that. Now this is where I'm listening to Gilbert Arenas, his take on Monty Williams, and he has a good take on this. And actually, it's kind of like started this recording dealing with the whole religious thing of Monty Williams. Monty Williams has come from a structural perspective. Well, Tom Gores and the NBA, or you could say America, is at a place as not so much of a constructual place, it's more of a destructual place. So anything that is in a united front, not so much something like a religion or something as a movement, those are not united fronts. Those are part of destruction or being destructive. When you talk about a united front, we talk about good over evil. So if Monty Williams said, I'm going to put in Killian Hayes over Ivy. He said, I want good over evil. Is he saying that Killian is good, Ivy is evil? No. He's saying structure is good. Not being, complementary is evil. So he's saying, he said, Hayes is a better complement to Cunningham than Ivy is. Just based upon how the mindset is. You could say the maturity, or you could say the background. Now, don't get me wrong, it's like the lesser two evils with that. Yet, I see where he's coming from. At the same time, Monty Williams did not accumulate this stuff. So all this mess goes back to the individual who threw it on the wall to see if it sticks. But the purpose of him doing that way, it was calculated. It's calculated is because it's something bigger going on but outside of the NBA. It's something bigger than that. It's something bigger than outside of sports. Sports is nothing but a distraction anyway. Entertainment, that is. Entertainment is just it's just a distraction. If you're blind, you're gonna miss it. If you have, as the Bible would say, eyes. If you have eyes to see, let you see. If you have ears to hear, let you hear. It's bigger than that. The reason for it is money is involved. Money is involved. The moment you put like gambling involved, that should let you know that it's no longer the days that it could be structural or good over evil is over. When the Pistons, when the NBA didn't allow the Pistons to win against the Lakers, and I say allow because that found the Lambert foul on Kareem. Of course, it wasn't no foul. They saw it. They saw there was nobody going to beat the Pistons. Once the Pistons got past Boston, nobody was going to beat the Pistons. We could say the same thing for the likes of the Bulls. Once Michael Jordan was able to get past the Pistons, nobody was going to stop him. But the difference is Michael Jordan had help from the league. The Pistons never had help. Here's the proof, even modern day. How do you to show you how that is bigger than just sports? 3 consecutive years, you get the 5th overall pick. Either that ping pong machine is broken or is rigged. There's no way it's calculated. There's absolutely no way you do not get a top 3 pick. Never mind the 1st overall. Top 3 pick. Now, when it comes to a Cade Cunningham, it goes back to the structuring. It goes back to can you market him? Can the NBA, in other words, can the NBA get behind him? No. He's like Isaiah Thomas. The NBA can't get behind him. So Cade if he's going to lead the Pistons to a promised land, he's going to have to become like Isaiah Thomas. And that put him in the mind of a Kobe Bryant-esque type deal. You're going to have to study. Study. Because there's no way you're going to be able to beat the NBA at their game. There was no way Isaiah was going to be able to beat Magic and Bird as long as the NBA is supporting them or not just supporting them or assembling with them or, helping them to assemble their greatness or their dominance. Cade is going to have to do it the same way that Isaiah Thomas did. You're going to have it's not just a chip on your shoulder. Cade is going to have to, I can't speak of it. It's like, it has to go past being an athlete. It has to go past being, it has to become personal. I mean, personal. Like, it's your drive. But that has to be in you. That was in Isaiah Thomas before he got to Detroit. There's a reason why he was saying that he wasn't going to Dallas or going to another team. I'm not. Why did the NBA allow the Pistons to get Cade Cunningham? Because the NBA is not behind Cade. Cade has that. I don't know. He has that. There's no flash there. With Bird wasn't flashy, yet the NBA can get behind him because he was the NBA. If you want to talk about his ethnicity and so forth, he was the NBA. And you're talking about at a point when the NBA was turning from being the NBA talking about going back to the days of Bob Cousy and so forth. You know, the NBA was turning. By the time Larry Bird was coming into the league, the NBA was turning to a more diverse type sport, or diverse type, oh, wow, entertainment, if you will. So it was becoming much larger than sports. Yet, if you were afraid of change, you were going to drown. So the NBA stepped in, and notice it was a rule that you can draft a player in college. There was no lottery. You could draft a player before they even finished their collegiate year. And from my understanding, I believe they drafted Larry Bird before he was even done with college. See how then notice the rules changed from that. Well, after Larry Bird, give me another of his ethnicity that was as electric as Larry Bird. After Larry Bird, that is. Give me somebody. Give me somebody who was as electric as Larry Bird. When you saw him going against the likes of Magic Johnson and he had like this spark that he wasn't afraid, that was all what the NBA needed to get behind him. Everybody else they couldn't get behind. They had to get behind a pack of them, yeah. But you couldn't get behind, there wasn't one that stood out. You could say before him we say what, Jerry West? But after Larry Bird, who do you have? I mean, that was electric as Larry Bird. Larry Bird wasn't just a good player, in my opinion. He was electric. He was the same thing of Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson was electric. So, with that being said, after Larry Bird, there is nobody that they can get behind. However, there is someone that is electric, and if you do it right, he will be more with the NBA than against the NBA. Right? Yeah, the problem with that is there's someone there that is not considered someone we really don't want to endorse. Yet, but he's standing in the way of this player that we're modifying. So the rules get changed. Jordan never beat the Pistons. They say in '91 they swept the Pistons. The Pistons was done. They were done. Isaiah, the extent of his wrist, all that. There was no way that they were going to beat the Pistons without the NBA helping. There was no way. So yeah, Detroit was trapped between a rock and a hard place of becoming a dynasty. The Lakers, that Phantom Foul, that ruled that out. Then the whole Michael Jordan thing, that ruled that out. There was no way they was going to allow the Pistons to become a dynasty. There was no way. There was no way. So with that being said, come with the Monty Williams thing. It's a calculated outcome. I believe Tom Gores knew about this. I believe Monty Williams took the job for the money. That's not something. Well, that it comes with the territory of entertainment. It is about the money. Once again, it's not about structure. The proof is this guy came here on a contract who is structured, who is implementing structure, but yet he gets fired because of he's structured. But he gets talked about, or he gets assaulted, if you will, verbally assaulted. But I don't know. He gets really backlashed, if they have a lot of backlash on him based on his contract. How can he win? The NBA or sports itself is not really a structural environment. It's full of animals. That's why it's competitive. It's to kill or be killed. The better team that can kill the most, is willing to kill the most, wins. That's why it's less about teamwork is more so of an isolation thing. And every time there's teamwork, here comes isolation again. Now the Pistons was like the bad boys was emulating, okay, teamwork. It's going to take us being a team from top to bottom to beat the likes of the Lakers and the Celtics. Those are NBA's teams. So we're going to have to be a team on top of a team. All right, what breaks that up? Isolation. Michael Jordan is isolation. All right. Now, out of Michael Jordan, he branches off another but a bunch of isolated players. Bunch of isolated players. Why? Because everybody wanted to be like Mike. Bunch of isolated players. So no one really could beat Michael Jordan as a team because most teams were isolated. You may have a star player and a bunch of I guess you could say, I don't know. Yeah. Star player, do you have the counterparts? They was marketing that during that time. Michael Jordan brought in the isolation player. Less team, isolation. Now, when Michael Jordan became so-called a dynasty, let's say the first three titles with the Bulls is because of what? There was no one to oppose him. Everybody was going to the direction of Michael Jordan. No one could beat him because no one could beat him. Right? Charles Barkley goes to Phoenix. He can't beat Michael Jordan. Why? Because the players were intimidated by Michael Jordan. If they had Charles Barkley attitude, they would have swept the Bulls. Right? When I say intimidated, they more so was in the awe of Michael Jordan. Even though they had to go up against him, they was in the awe of him. Likes of the Lakers was done by the time, there was no Kareem. They was done. So they weren't gonna do it. The Blazers were, like as Michael Jordan stated, that he didn't really respect them. He respected the Celtics, the Lakers. He hated that he had to respect the Pistons. He hated that. But nonetheless, when it came to the Blazers, he didn't have to. There was no one player that the NBA was endorsing. There was no one player that was electric. So he already came in with the mindset that he was better than them. And those other players that was on the Blazers team, they was in awe of him. That's why they lost. So, Michael Jordan era, he disappears. It's part of the NBA rule. I need you to disappear for a little bit. All right? He disappeared for a little bit. Who takes over? Let's say, what's that? 91, 92, 93, 94, 95. You have Houston Rockets, right? Now we go back to being united. United team. Now the NBA comes in again. So we got to get rid of that. Mike, we need you back. Mike comes back. They win 3. Right? But then Mike brings in another addition of isolated players. This is where you get the Allen Iversons, the Kobe Bryants, the Stephon Marbury's, the Kevin Garnett's. It's a list on list. Vince Carter's, etc. It's a list on list as isolated players. So by the time that the NBA meets up with the Spurs, the NBA is done with the isolated player and they go back to the team ball again. Which now the America's team becomes an international team. Which goes to the likes of the San Antonio Spurs and they hold assembly. Now here comes the Pistons again. Now, Pistons is coming to be a dynasty, and before they get a chance to get their engines revving, the NBA come in and chop it off. I want to say between the involvement with the NBA with Larry Brown, I want to say with the involvement of making sure that the Pistons, I don't know, the whole Spurs thing. It was something about that. You could tell that it was favorited towards the Spurs in that series. So the Pistons would have to do what the Pistons do. They would have to be a team above a team, to beat the NBA again. The NBA was not going to allow the Pistons to win again. They can't afford that. Why? Because once the Spurs is over, it has to go back to isolation ball. Now, don't get me wrong, it's business. I get it. It's business. But one thing about it, it depends. If money is what makes it go for you, then there's no problem with it. Once again, it goes back to being good versus evil. So Monty Williams had to get fired, yet he didn't have to get fired. Could it have worked? Yeah, they would have to do it the Pistons way, though. No one a part of that team knows the Pistons way. No one, let's rephrase it. No one about the organization knows anything about the Pistons way. No one. And Tom Gores makes sure of that. He made sure that no one that was a part of the Pistons way was a part of the organization. And still is not a part of it. So what do you guys think about Trajan Langdon was going to do? He's going to do it the Tom Gores way. No different than how Monty Williams does it, or no different than how Troy Weaver has done it. No different than how Tom Gores is going to do it. None of them are the Pistons DNA. None of them are teamwork on top of teamwork type people. It's going to be... Trajan Langdon was the guy to fire Troy Weaver and was the guy to fire Monty Williams. He was that guy. So his stint is going to be short-lived too. Unless the NBA is going to endorse Trajan Langdon. Which I don't see likely. Because if so, there's a reason why they didn't allow the Pistons to get the top 3 pick. Because if they got the top 3 pick, you would have to keep Monty Williams and Troy Weaver. You would have to keep them. It's too much possibility with that to fire them at the time if they were to get a top 3 pick. A top 5 pick, you can fire them. This is where Tom Gores gets involved and allow the top 5 pick. This is why I say it's a calculated throwing on the wall, see if it stick type deal when it comes to the likes of Tom Gores. It's calculated. It reeks dishonesty. It reeks dishonesty. And that's what makes Bill Davison like the bar. He is the bar in comparison to the likes of the Tigers, the Red Wings, and the Lions. Bill Davison is the bar. He is the guy, in my opinion, is the best, how can we say it, franchise manager out of all the 4 professional sports in Michigan. Bill Davison. Because he was head above shoulders for structure. It's like it was like he had to go up against so much to build it. He had to go up against adversity. And he was so willing to be diverse. Yet everybody else is starting to build off of that. Everybody is building off what Bill Davison did. This is why he is like the best. He is the best. Out of, talking about Illich, Well, Illich, he is the Tigers and he is the Red Wings. And even the forwards. There's no comparison. There's no comparison. Yeah, Bill Davidson is a dynasty. He is. The Pistons is a dynasty. If the NBA don't get involved, the Pistons is a dynasty. If you look at the Lakers game against the Pistons in the finals, and what was that, 88? And look at that foul, and do you see a foul there? And you're talking about contact. During the 88 series, 88 year, you're talking about there was still, I believe that the hand checking rule was still there, I believe. So it was a physical game, in other words. And look at the foul that they called on Bill Laimbeer. They had to call it because the Pistons were going to win. And it was going to be a dynasty. So with that being said, the Michael Jordan had to end that possibility. I don't know. I could be very, I don't know. A conspiracy theorist, or I don't know, conspiracy theorist. I don't know. I could say that Isaiah Thomas' surgery could have been botched intentionally. I don't know, man. It just... Bill Davidson, to me, was willing to... He was not willing to be evil, if you will. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that he was holy. I'm saying that the things that he was willing to do for his diverse players, and it was a group of diverse players. And that's one thing that this Pistons team now don't have. They're not a group of diverse players. They are a group of players like throw it on the wall, see if it's stick, but it's like it's calculated, so to speak. And Bill Davidson was willing to work with his diverse players, and it worked. Yeah, the Bad Boys team is a dynasty. Because if you look at the two, what was standing in their way of becoming a dynasty? Say the 88 title, Phantom Foul, right? 91, Isaiah is hurt. They changed all the rules and everything else to favor towards Michael Jordan. So everything that the Pistons could do, they couldn't do anymore. It wasn't like they was reinventing the rules. They was working within the rules. This goes back to what Isaiah was saying. They was working within the rules, and that what gave them the advantage. Well, the Pistons was at a disadvantage when the NBA is supporting the likes of Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. Somebody say, how is he supporting Magic Johnson? You have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You get a number one draft pick in Magic Johnson. And you get another number one draft pick in the likes of James Worthy. How does that happen? You can say trades, but how does that happen? So that would be, if the NBA was behind the Pistons, they got the number one pick with Cade Cunningham. And then after that, how many top three picks were they in contention for? And it was like, after Cade, they was historically bad each of those following seasons. How do you not end up with a top three pick? And when it comes to the Lakers, how do you get Kareem, Magic Johnson, and James Worthy? Never mind, you have a Bob McAdoo, and you have so many other solid players. Bob McAdoo, he was that deal. Anyway, I ended off with that. As long as they're... Oh, forgive me, before we go. I want to hint to something that Gilbert Arenas did say on this podcast. About, he gave a take about Monty Williams' approach And then Kenyon Martin had something to say about it and said, well, pretty much that way is done. Well, now, the fact that they're saying that is the proof of what the agenda was with the NBA. I mean, with the NBA, what the agenda was. Well, if you take out the structure, you create an animal, right? You create an animal. What's the point of an animal? Animal, if an animal is misbehaved, you kill it. If the animal is structured, you don't kill it. It's beneficial. It makes you look good, so to speak. But if it's an animal, you kill it. If it's unstructured, it becomes wild. You kill it. And if you can't do it, you kill it. So the whole thing with Monty Williams was staged from day one. If it wasn't, there was no way the Pistons wouldn't end up with the number 5th pick 3 years in a row. Either the machine is broken or it's rigged. I'm talking about when they're juggling the balls, either the machine is broken or it's rigged. There is no chance that 3 straight years you get the number 5th pick. Going back to, let's also include this. In the Joe Dumars era, how do you end up with the number 9 pick repeatedly? Come on, man. I get it. This is why the whole thing with the Pistons thing, it's only gonna get uglier. It's only gonna get uglier. Cause the Pistons is bought and owned by the NBA. Once Bill Davidson passed, may have a peace upon his soul. They're going to make sure Detroit is not going to be Detroit, as long as Detroit is the population what it is. So they're trying to make Detroit no longer be the population what it is. And I don't know if this is what Rashid or somebody was talking about, about Detroit don't want to pay that ticket. Is that certain ticket? This is where you put the religion, ethnicity, creeds, all that part of it. Evil can only produce evil. Evil can never produce good. Good is balance. Good is always balanced. Say, like, if we were to throw a fictional character and Thanos in there. Thanos' point in the whole Endgame movie, Marvel Endgame movie, he was trying to establish balance. But the way he was going to establish balance creates imbalancement. He thought balance meant that if you wipe out 50% of the population, it'll be more resources to go around. But yet you still have the other half that remembers the 50 that was gone. So it's going to constantly be a problem that's going to keep recurring. Balance is not based off of evil. Balance is always based off of good. Always based off of good. It's called structure. The structure is the more good that you do, the more balanced that it is. So in other words, the less that is about you, the more balanced that it is. Now, if you have a group of 10 and you're the only one, how balanced can that be? Now, when it becomes balanced off of that one, now you see something we would call something supernatural. Pistons fans, I salute.